New Orleans, Louisiana, home to Bourbon Street, Beignet, and Bacchanalia. But today, it's home to the cars and the stars of Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. Welcome to Nola Motorsports Park, located 8 miles south and west as the crow flies from the Big Easy, and the site of a full weekend of SRO America action. This weekend marks just the second time this track has hosted professional sports car racing, but it has quickly earned a reputation for fast, fierce competition. Hello, my name is Ryan Marine. Calvin Fish is alongside. Amanda Busick is down in the pit lane. It is dry for now, Calvin, but the threat of rain hangs over us like the sword of Damocles, and as a result, a little extra emphasis perhaps on this qualifying session that's set to set the grid for both 90-minute races here this weekend.
Yeah, that rain is definitely threatening when you look at the radar, so we could see that for race time this afternoon. So I think track position will certainly be a key factor for these drivers right now. You see the cars up on the jacks getting ready for those tires to come out of the ovens. And I think that's going to be the key, laying down a really quick lap. This track is pretty abrasive, Ryan, so a lot of the teams and drivers have been talking this weekend about tire degradation. So this is the ideal scenario in terms of these relatively cool conditions, just touching about 71 degrees ambient right now, but the track has been cleaned off overnight, and that's going to be a factor because once we get into running during the course of the hectic race schedule that we have, offline is a real problem with the marbling from these tires, so lots to look forward to here today.
That marbling has been a story up and down the paddock, but it becomes less of a story should rain come into the picture. More on the forecast as we go throughout this broadcast, but now let's check in down to the pit lane with our Amanda Busick.
You're going to start seeing these Pirelli slicks go on to Ashton Harrison and Mario Farnbacher's Acura as we get ready for qualifying. And the guys in the booth were just talking about the tire deck here, about the weather, all these different scenarios that could happen here, Mario. What's kind of a leading theme for you guys as we kick off qualifying?
I mean, we were building a good car over the days. Today's a bit of a different weather, so will be a little bit different. But I think this kind of weather right now will play a bit more to our favor, I would say. But let's see how are things going in the qualifying.
Ashton Harrison currently in the car getting ready for this qualifying session. She had a breakout weekend here last year, taking pole in her stint, and then coming off of that last lap move with Manny Franco in Sonoma. How did you guys talk about that finish after the race?
I mean, it was great. It was a great move. I mean, there was some little contact earlier in that last lap from Franco to her, and we know her, so she's like on it, and she just took the opportunity, and it was a great move from her. So yeah, let's see. I mean, she learns quickly, and she's doing a good job all the time. So really looking forward to the race today.
Engine is fired in that Acura. Let's get this qualifying started.
Let's indeed. And for Ashton, that was really one of the highs of her motorsports career, that last lap pass to take the win in race 2 of the weekend in our season opener at Sonoma. But she's had both the highs and the lows of motorsports packed into the last few weeks.
Yeah, well, she runs in another North American championship with a similar race car, and she had a big incident on the streets of Long Beach. So she got the all clear medically to be fit to race here this weekend, and now she wants to bounce back. I mean, she's a pretty fierce competitor. We saw that on that last lap where Manny roughed her up a little bit down in turn 7, and she was on it and made that last corner pass there. So she's a very determined young lady. She's shown tremendous speed over the last year, winning that Pro-Am championship. They got bumped up to Pro, but come away with the first win of their season at Sonoma. So they've got all the tools there in the toolbox, and I think alluding to what Mario said about the weather now is a little bit cooler than we saw, and it's pretty warm here. First real summer day I've experienced this year. So it was about mid-80s yesterday, as I said earlier, low 70s right now, so maybe he feels that's the sweet spot for this Acura.
Another car and driver combination that comes into this weekend with some momentum. That CrowdStrike Mercedes you saw rolling out to take to the track. It'll be George Kurtz to qualify here in Q1. He and his co-driver Colin Brown, 2 podiums to start the year at Sonoma, including an overall win in the Sunday race.
Yeah, they look very strong. I mean, they've learned a lot since they switched over to the Riley Motorsports team with that CrowdStrike entry, and I think they're going to be the team to beat this year. I mean, there's a lot of Mercedes in the class, certainly, but I think they're the team to beat right now. Strong weekend, a podium and a win. They had a good weekend here last year as well. Had a victory here on that race weekend as well. So I think they want to go a little bit better, and they didn't feel that hot finished that high in the standings last year, but they're going to put that to rights this year. So I think they're the team to beat, certainly. But George, I also felt, had a really strong weekend at Sonoma. He was really much on his form there. And when he gets that little bit of confidence, that's the real differentiator between these Pro-Am pairings. If your hammer's on fire in terms of good form for the weekend, that can put you at the top of the heap.
Well, that's how it played out in Sonoma for sure. Another car that was fighting with them last year for the Pro-Am Championship. This one from Wright Motorsports, Charlie Luck and Jan Heylen, the father-in-law, son-in-law duo. They're stepping up to the new platform of Porsche 911.
It's the 21 machine there from Conquest. Manny Franco involved in that last lap battle, or last session battle there in the race at Sonoma with Ashton Harrison. He has been so impressive since he burst onto the scene at Sebring last year. Great team, he's had a ton of success in a variety of different championships, including single-seater series, but also particularly in our Pirelli GT4 championship. They've had a ton of wins there. So led by Eric Bachelard, really good group.
Let's talk about this racetrack, Calvin. Very flat, 2.75 miles in length, 16 corners. We're on board with Manny Franco for the lap, Calvin. What is he looking at?
Well, this first sector is where the overtaking opportunities are. He got on that heavy brake zone there down into turn 1, but also these next couple of corners, turn 3 and turn 4. Particularly, we start to get a little bit tire degradation later into the race here today, or later into the stint. There's going to be fresh tires being put on during the driver change, of course, halfway through. But this is where the overtaking opportunities exist. But talk to all of the drivers. They said once we get some laps and we start to really grind these tires, it's so abrasive, the track surface here, that if you're offline, particularly you start to head towards these S's here. This is turn 6 and 7 that we're running through right now. This is 7. Set you up into this little short chute before you start to encounter these S's here, but you're really up on the wheel through this sector as we listen for a little bit here. Manny modulating the throttle through there. You really have to hit these apexes, get the car up on the curb, so you need the suspension set up to be a little bit compliant there. Big bump through that one. That's turn 13, 14. You can hear the patience that he's having to display here with the throttle application here. Again, we're pretty early in the run, so the tires aren't completely up to pressure and temperature just yet. Then you unwind that wheel on this front straightaway, eat up all of that curb there on the exit.
And that is a lap of Nola Motorsports Park. Manny Franco in the early going does jump to P1 at the top of the time charts.
Pretty tasty time as well, 34.6 early in the session. Fast lap yesterday was Jan Heylen at 134.3, one of the pros in the Pro-Am lineup, so that's a good indicator that the Conquest Racing team may be running on used tires yesterday because they weren't towards the top of the heap, so maybe they're just running well-worn tires. Now he's got some fresh sticker Pirellis on there showing some speed.
This is the lone AM-class car in the field. Real-time racing with Bartone Brothers Racing. Anthony Bartone has been a revelation despite limited GT3 experience. Back to George Kurtz for Riley Motorsports. There you see he and Colin Brown, a dynamic pairing. They've been working together for many years now. And the combination of those two drivers in this Riley team, they started the season last year, Calvin, really strong out of the gate, faded late, ultimately finished 4th in the points, but they've started this season strong once again.
They have, and they just do it right. Bill Riley's got so much experience now with this Mercedes platform, and they're just really ticking, firing on all cylinders. George and Colin are very busy running a variety of different championships, prototype racing. They're getting ready to head over to Le Mans as well. Shortly, they'll be competing at Spa as well. So lots on George Kurtz's plate. He actually texted me during the week and said, I love Silverstone. I said, Silverstone, what were you doing there? And he shot me a picture of him with a couple of the the Mercedes F1 cars that he had a chance to run last week. So he's enjoying life right now.
Busy guy in the business world. You'll see him on a lot of the business talk shows. Busy guy as well with his racing. That is the passion. And you see George Kurtz gave up some time there in that 3rd sector. Had a lap that was trending to be towards the top of the stack, but right now sits in 4th. Just got bumped down as Chandler Hull went up to P3.
Yeah, and you see the little sectors indicated to the right of the car number there. If it's a yellow one or an orange, depending on your viewpoint there, that means it's not their personal best. Green is personal best, and purple is best overall. And you see Eric Filgueiras, the 28 car, is on a good one as we watch Charlie Luck here negotiate. And as with this, we said that Filgueiras jumps to the top into the 33s. I think that's the first 133 we've seen here this weekend.
Filgueiras was on pole for his GT3 debut in Sonoma. He and Stephen McAlee are making that jump from Pirelli GT4 America, where they won the Silver Championship last year, to the GT3 ranks, and he continues that fine form, 7/10 clear of the second best time we've seen so far. In the meantime, though, we watched Charlie Luck here for Wright Motorsports, a pair of fourth-place finishes in the season opener at Sonoma, looking to carry some of that forward. We spoke with his co-driver Jan Haywood yesterday, and Jan was pretty realistic about their chances here this weekend. They thought top 5 is probably the goal.
Yeah, but you know, I think there's maybe more there. They're learning the ropes with this new configuration, with this latest Porsche design, and you know, the sister car, the 120 machine, had a great run. So Wright Motorsports 2-car entry this year in this championship, and Charlie really had a weekend to forget here at Nola last year. It wasn't his best weekend, so I'm sure he's looking to put that behind him. There you can see his sector times. He was up in the first sector, lost a little bit sector 2, sector 3, so it looks like he's may have peaked already, those tires, as I said. Depends what you start them with. If you start them relatively higher on the tire pressure, that first lap or two will be the prime opportunity to lay down a lap. Others will maybe come in a little bit later if they're a bit more conservative with their starting pressure.
Back to Manny Franco and this Conquest Racing team, that new Ferrari 296 GT3. After so many years of Ferrari campaigning various iterations of the 488, it's a sharp-looking race car developed in part by Orica, the French firm. A little strange thinking there's a French skeleton underneath the all-Italian outside of this machine.
Not sure what Enzo would be thinking about all of that.
Hey, if it goes fast, I'm sure he'd be happy.
Yeah.
And it is a sharp-looking race car, as you come to expect from Ferrari. This is on board with Adam Adelson. Adam was really strong at Sonoma, loving this transition. He, too, making the jump from GT4 to GT3 this year.
He was just bubbling yesterday when we spoke to him, just big smile on his face. He is absolutely loving life behind the wheel of this GT3 machine. A lot more downforce than the cars he's been used to before. And he just said this is the perfect fit. You know, he expected to come in, he thought we had all of the tools here in the toolbox to be top 5, but to come out of the box so strong at Sonoma was really kind of the, I mean, I know it's early in the season, but the surprise so far of this season was just how that team was able to perform on debut.
This is the previous generation 911 here through the high-speed S's. And talking to the drivers, they love the flow of this section, the way that one set of S's blends into the next, and it really punishes you for a mistake.
It does, and this is where you finish sector 2. I think he was maybe backing off here, try to set up the next lap. He looked like he was kind of on cruise mode there a little bit. Doesn't want to rush up on that car in front of him. Maybe this will be his peak lap he's going to try and set up now. Turn 15 we're in right now. Start to unwind that wheel. And now he's hitting pit lane, so he's done. So it looks like these tires are coming to their peak a little bit early in this session.
Don't see many green sectors indicating a personal best on timing right now, but one does belong to this driver, Derek DeBoer. Stop me if you've heard this before. Another driver transitioning from Pirelli GT4 America to Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS this year. Longtime customer with TRG, but making that big jump to the GT3 ranks. And Derek right now just outside of the top 10 overall in P11. Different co-driver for him this weekend. He had Ross Gunn with him at Sonoma. Ross is on F1 simulator duties this weekend for Mercedes. So Valentin Hasse-Clos, very fast French driver, Aston Martin factory driver, will be in the TRG car through the rest of the weekend.
Yeah, we've seen him once before compete at the end of 2021.
Yes.
Had a really strong run at Indy, and we expected to see him a teammate to Paul Terry for last season, but unfortunately Paul passed away, and we were unable to see that relationship develop.
Paul gave one of the all-time quotes after qualifying that weekend. Valentin put it on Paul, and Paul just goes, "Frenchie is fast." I've always remembered that. Ziad Gondor here, new car, similar team. He's been with the TR3 team off and on over the years, but it's a Mercedes for the very Italian race team. And Ziad with a great middle sector, but not really able to make an impact in sectors 1 or 2. Right now he finds himself down in P16 at the moment, but his co-driver Daniel Morad has been fast all weekend long.
Yeah, he was second quick in yesterday's session, Daniel was, so I think there's potential with that TR3 Mercedes. This is a fun driver pairing right here. Seth Lucas on board right now, sharing this car with Trenton Estep. Love the livery of this one, really cool.
MDK Motorsports, the team. Longtime sports car driver Mark Kwame is the team owner. Team based out of Ohio, in the Columbus, Ohio area. Seth is based about 45 minutes from there himself. Told me that was a coincidence. It wasn't necessarily the reason he hooked up with this team. Right now, they sit a little further down the order than they would like. P8 overall, and this is one of the pro class cars here. One of just a handful still out on the track right now. If you look at that banner on the left-hand side of the screen, any of those third sectors that show up red, that indicates the car has come to the pit lane. So that gives you an idea of just how few cars remain out on the circuit, with the tire deck being what it is.
Yeah, and I think also the factor is you've got to utilize these tires from your allocation for the races here this weekend. So if you feel you're not really getting anywhere by staying out there and pounding around, you're just taking life out of the tires for the races this weekend as well.
Derek DeBoer just had a personal best opening sector, and right on cue, the camera crew finds him.
It's a good lap if he can just piece it together here. See that big bump there as you go through turn 13. Just try and keep it nice and tidy, don't too aggressive here. So I'm going to have a little bit of a slide there coming off this final corner on a previous lap. Just rolling the apex speed without getting too aggressive and sort of like reigniting the car off and unsettling the balance there is the key through that one.
DeBoer was P10, 135.076 that time by. That does improve for him, but it does not make an impact. Actually, no, it's about a tenth off of his previous best.
Yeah, just that final sector. I think he's just a little bit conservative there, or maybe he's losing the bike and the tires as well.
That is one of the areas where I've been told the tire deg really starts to make an impact. That long duration, 15, 16, coming onto the front straightaway. Right now he finds himself behind Justin Wetherill. This car at the bottom of the time charts, but frankly, it's a great story just to have them on the track right now. In one of the test sessions earlier this weekend, it was a wet session, and they were hit actually by Bill Oberlin, not someone who you usually are talking about making any kind of a slip up, but evidently just got caught out by the wet conditions, slid into this car, which was being driven by Ryan Diao at the time, and they had to truck in an entirely separate car that they could then cannibalize for spare parts to get out on track again tomorrow, or yesterday, late in the morning is when they were finally able to get that car repaired after the spare parts car, I guess, showed up about in the middle of the night.
Yeah, a lot of work, a lot of effort for that team to get it back together. And unfortunately, when that happens to you early in the weekend, you lose that valuable track time. You're always playing catch up. Yes, you're making progress every time you go on the racetrack typically, but everyone else is just that step ahead. So not ideal circumstances for this group.
And Justin will do no better than 17th at the back of the grid. He won't be happy with that. Better in a Ferrari Challenge competition. Great coach in Ryan Diao alongside. We'll see what Ryan can do with that car coming up in Q2 a little bit later. So Filgueiras appears to be set to claim his second pole at his many qualifying attempts in GT3 competition. Manny Franco, it shows his balls on, but that should be Manny Franco, we think, in second. Although as a pro class car, they could have switched the order.
That's right.
Smithson, the quickest of the Pro-Ams, then Adelson, Harrison, and Hull, the rest of the top 6 overall. And it looks like Ziad Gondor, one of just 3 cars, maybe that 2 cars, still out on track right now and not trending to see any major improvement, it would appear. Right now, he finds himself 16th of the 17 cars as the checkered flag comes out at the starter stand. How about this? Eric Filgueiras, pole again. Not bad for a driver who has never been a GT3 driver before the Sonoma weekend, and a team that is new to racing in GT3 as well. And I believe our Amanda Busick is ready to chat with someone from the RS1 team.
Ryan, I love the words that you just used. He just said, Eric Filgueiras, pole again. You back it up, the performance in Sonoma. Why should no one be surprised about this, Eric?
I think it's how this team works. It's a new platform for us, obviously, being in a GT3 car. It's new for the team. It's new for me. But we gel. I think everything has been fantastic. When it comes to the team, we're learning the car. Porsche's given us a really great platform, and they've been extremely helpful, when it comes to aiding us in this transition from a GT4 to a GT3. But I really just think that we have this cohesion.
We see some rain conditions later on today. You and Steven had a fantastic performance here last year in Pirelli GT4. What can you tell us about this track in those conditions?
Yeah, it was great last year, although it was short-lived. With where we are at sea level-wise, I think if it rains consistently enough, it's really hard to get a race in because it just puddles and doesn't really have anywhere to run off to. But if it rains and we're in a situation where we can race, having a little bit of that experience from last year, even in the GT4 car, I think gives us what I think is an upper hand, and we'll study that and prepare if that's the case.
Great to hear from Eric, and he brings up a good point. This track is located about 2 feet below sea level, and so drainage is always going to be an issue. And if you ever watched the IndyCar race, the lone IndyCar race that took place here back in 2015, I believe, that certainly was a storyline there, as it was for us at times last year. But I know the track has put a lot of effort into trying to do something to divert that water should we get some rain later on today.
Yeah, that shot there was not the track.
Right, thank goodness.
But it looked like that last year with the deluge that we had and the red flag that we had to encounter. But the one thing that surprised me last year when the rain was coming, we were all concerned about, is this track going to be a skating rink? Other than the puddling and the issues that created, I seem to recall that the track had pretty good grip, so it could provide some good racing opportunities. And you'd expect that a little bit with the abrasive nature of the surface itself.
You know, what's interesting, going back to the Eric Filgueiras story, they were dominant last year in Pirelli GT4 America, won the championship by 61 points, 11 wins, 12 podiums last year for Filgueiras and McAleer in RS1, but Eric only had 2 poles last year. He's at half of that number already.
Yeah.
In his first 2 GT3 qualifying sessions.
Yeah, I mean, he's just a young man. He's not a kid any longer. I remember when he was a kid beating around the paddock with his dad, handing out resumes and networking and doing everything he could to get opportunities like he's now getting here. But he is really, I mean, Mike Skeen has a lot of GT3 experience. Eric does not. So for him to step up and do what he's doing here this season is really a testimony to what skill set he has.
Yeah, McAleer, I think,
yes.
Who has driven with Mike Skeen in recent years. So, yep, there's that. But, yeah, you're right. And what Eric has done, he's been a quick study for sure, and he's got a great support system, as he alluded to, with the RS1 team. A really impressive operation in its own right out of Pompano Beach, Florida. Justin Bellinzoni, the team owner, has really assembled a great group. And to have McAleer as a reference point, that has to accelerate the learning curve.
It does. I mean, they've got all of the right pieces. They've got great backing, great team engineering. As you said, McAleer's got the experience, and he's like a sponge that, Eric can really work off there. So, it's going to be good. It's going to be fun. I mean, I think that's the neat thing about the championship right now, the way it lays out. Yeah, you can say, you point a finger at who's maybe the favorite, but I think there's 10 cars every weekend that's in with a shout of a victory, which is cool. Yeah,
no question. And, one of the stories going into Sonoma was no K-Pax Racing, right? They'd been the dominant team in this American championship for a number of years. They just had a remarkable weekend over in Monza last weekend in GT World Challenge Europe. Ended up with a mechanical failure, didn't have a chance to get the result, but they were running in podium contention in a 55-car grid over in Europe against some very established teams. So definitely really impressive what they were able to do. It shows the quality of the field that was able to go up against them from time to time here in the States last year. Back down to the pits and Amanda.
Manny, we took a long look at your in-car and did a lap around Nola Motorsports here, and it looks like you were taking the Ferrari 296 to a good lap around this place. What have you learned so far about this track, and where can your talents benefit here?
I learned that the track's a bit bumpy, but it has its moments, and if you can conquer those moments, there are certain bumps that if you find a way over them,
You know, you can find a lot of pace there. The 296 is fantastic here. You know, it's got a good chunk of downforce in it, and the S's are a lot of fun here. So. Yeah.
I know on our broadcast we replayed that last lap at Sonoma, and I'm sure you've replayed it a lot of times in your mind. Is there a learning lesson there for you?
Yeah, of course. You know, like everything I learn, even from someone who might be slower or faster, whatever, everything's a lesson for me. That one was definitely a lesson. You know, just mine went blank and just didn't block in there. But that's something that not only I will remind myself, but the team will remind me anytime we're back in that situation. Hopefully soon. So yeah.
Has a chance to be in that situation again.
Yeah.
That was Manny in the car. That answers that question. So Alessandro Balzan now installed for Conquest Racing, second overall qualifying for Manny. And we talk about Eric Filgueiras. It's not like Manny has much more experience than Eric does. He did 2 races at Sebring last year in a GT3 car, and that's it.
So many stories. Adelson, I mean, just they keep coming at us, but. You know, I found it ironic that last lap that he got his elbows out to get that lead from Ashton in turn 7, and then kind of left the door wide open. And Ashton's not going to forgive the opportunity and just took it, obviously, and grabbed the win.
It was a great finish. If you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor. Find the highlights, find the whole race for that matter on the GT World YouTube channel. Great finish to the weekend at Sonoma. Leads us into what we have in store here at Nola Motorsports Park. And this is Q2. So the difference being, by regulation, in the Pro-Am lineups, it's now the pros that are qualifying these cars. And if Sonoma is any indication, I anticipate this grid to be totally jumbled from what we just saw in Q1 a few moments ago.
Yeah, one of those pros is John Edwards, BMW factory driver for a number of years now, been drafted in this ST Racing squad alongside Samantha Tan. He took that pole at Sonoma for race 2. Seemed like the car struggled a little bit with tire deg on that weekend, so they faded pretty quickly in the race. But spoke to John yesterday. He feels we're in a pretty good slot here. And let's see how he can work his magic here on this opening lap of his qualifying run. First flyer he's on right now.
It's a new experience for John, who has for so many years been plugged into those factory cars for BMW, but farmed out to a customer team here, new championship, new tire. He did run the 8-hour last year, but there's still a lot procedurally that is different. But a driver of his caliber, a factory driver, it was not a surprise to see him immediately on the pace at Sonoma.
No, it was no surprise, and I think they got a good group of people there. They've really upgraded that whole operation there at ST Racing. You can see how much of the curb he's using there. This looks like he's really pushing this car, optimizing these tires now as they're coming into their sweet spot. He said at Sonoma it was really difficult. You basically had to ease out on your outlap, otherwise you were taking some of the sweetness out. He said here's a little bit better. You might have 2 or 3 laps to get the job done, but this looks like a pretty tidy lap that he's putting together right now.
So far, Colin Brown, the quickest of those that have set a time, and that's most of the field, but let's watch this one. Edwards.
Purple middle sector
yes. There. And we'll check the time at the stripe. Good enough to go to P1. A 1:33.053. That is just 23 thousandths quicker than Colin Brown, who slots in P2. Bill Oberlin just jumped to 3rd, showing the strength of this BMW M4 GT3. And here is, as the late and lamented Paul Terry said, Frenchie, Valentin Hasseclos, and he is fast. Paul was quite right a couple of years ago. Now a fully minted Aston Martin factory driver. And he did test with this team here at Nola before the start of the season. One of the reasons he was tabbed to jump in when Ross Gunn was unavailable.
It's going to be close for the pole right now. Looking tough with he and Edwards, and he jumps to the top.
Well, he is a perfect 1-for-1 in qualifying in SRO America competition because he was on pole in that Pirelli GT4 America race at IMS back in 2021. So he's got a streak that he would like to preserve. Right now, he has just over a 10th in hand over Edwards, Brown, Corey Lewis, now P4, showing some strength for DXDT Racing, with his teammate Brian Settlers right behind in 5th.
Yeah, it looks like the car is really carving the corner. He really attacked turn 1. They rolled a lot of speed through there, and he's gone purple in sector 1. So actually now it resets. So underneath his best, so he's cooling off there. Going to probably analyze with the team whether he's got any potential speed left in that car. Cool these tires off, get a read on what everyone else is doing. Right now he has that top spot by just over a 10.
And you can see he's off the pace, pulls to the inside to allow the real-time racing Mercedes Andy Pilgrim to come through. Lewis using all of the curbs here, Calvin.
Wow, just bottomed that car out there, so they run it super low here, can probably run the right out a little bit lower with relatively light fuel load. We'll have to raise that up once we've got a full fuel load to start the race this afternoon. No refueling between the two sessions here in qualifying, so car is burning off some of that fuel toward the end of this second stint.
Personal best for Lewis, but not good enough to improve position-wise. Still fourth, just under a half-second shy of that time set by Haseklo.
It's a pretty decent lap here for Jan Haler, not fastest overall in first or second sector, but knocking on the door. If he can absolutely nail this third sector, I'm not sure if that traffic will have foiled his bid here a little bit.
The Belgian Jan Halen P2 by just 39 thousandths of a second.
Solid lap. Let's see if he can wring the neck of this car as his teammate. That's Charlie Luck looking on.
Well, Jan will like this because he admitted that a mistake on his own end in qualifying really set them back in that second race in Sonoma. And he certainly has made amends with a great lap there.
Yeah, Farnbacher's on one right now. Not a great first sector, personal best middle. Morad's had a good lap as well. Murray's just got to bail completely on. This is not ideal. You're not in the wind-up position. He may already start this lap on the back foot. I don't think he had enough time there to reset and get the speed on this front straightaway, which will affect his time from when he crosses the stripe to the break point for turn 1. It might just be half a mile an hour or a mile per hour. Less speed here as he hits the brakes, just because he wasn't able to wind it up through that final corner.
Yeah, but we're talking about very fine margins, less than a tenth of a second first to second. The top 12 covered by less than 9/10 of a second, and this qualifying too is
little lock up there. Little lock up there. I think he locked up the left rear possibly when he got on the brakes there. Saw a little puff of smoke. It's on the unweighted side of the car as he turned left.
Have to bail on this lap too and reset. Not sure how much tire life there's still going to be on this very abrasive track surface.
Well, the track is relatively clean right now, and I was thinking about as we saw Haseklo go offline, you got to be careful that you don't just suddenly snowball those tires, get all that pickup there. Same thing for Mario. He doesn't want to get caught out with a penalty for impeding someone's fast lap. You got to be careful you don't get a bunch of pickup on your tires at the same time.
Trenton Estep just went from 17th to 13th. That MDK team called him to the pit lane after just a couple of laps and then sent him back out.
That's surprising. They were quicker yesterday than 120 machine for Wright Motorsports. Skier hits pit lane down in 16th position right now.
We saw how quick that car was with Adam Adelson in Q1.
Look at Bolzano at the bottom of the heap after his teammate put the car on the front row.
Well, what did we say? We expected to be totally mixed up from Q1 to Q2. We're seeing that play out. Not many green sectors right now showing up on the leaderboard. This is Adam Carroll, the Irishman. And right now, 14th for the S's Racing team. Partial season program this year with aspirations to expand to multiple cars, perhaps looking ahead to 2024.
Was cruising a little bit as well. Doesn't seem like he's fully up to speed there as we watch him. Interesting to see how this combination works as they get a bit more experience through this season, if they can start to push up towards the top of the charts. Certainly Adam's got a lengthy history. He's 40 years old now. He's a little bit later in life, but I'm sure he's still got the passion to try and get the job done aboard that Mercedes.
He's one of a handful of drivers that was racing at Monza in GT World Challenge Europe last weekend in a bronze class, which is hard to imagine for Adam Carroll, but bronze class BMW from WRT. And this is Dial. His teammate Justin Wetherell really looked like he was struggling in Q1, and Ryan's found some pace, currently 10th.
He's pushing. This is a push lap, that is for sure. He'll be getting a predictive on his dashboard there to know if it's worth finishing off the lap. See the car really dances there through those high-speed S's. And there's that big bump there that really unsettles things. He just kind of hugged those curves, trying to hook those inside wheels there. He's rolling off speed, I think, a little bit now.
He had a personal best middle sector,
Yeah,
so
he's bailed.
must have had a slip up after that, because he comes to the pit lane and it appears will do no better than 10th today. So that leaves just McAleer, Estep, and Pilgrim on the track at the moment, as well as Colin Brown. Well, and this looks like Spencer Popelli's still out there too.
Yeah, this is a team that had a really solid debut
They
with
did.
the ACI Motorsports team. This is a ex-KCMG car that ran at Spa, I believe, last year, and a couple of those KCMG team personnel are embedded with this group, and it's really got this team off to a fast start. So great pace at Sonoma. They've never run anything at this level, pretty much. I think Carrera Cup is the highest level of Porsche single-seater stuff that they've run before, but Spencer's another one of those drivers. You bring him in, if you've got a couple of key personnel, they can perform some magic. Spencer has so much experience, ton of success over the years in a variety of different GT3 championships.
And that's right. To your point, this is a team that had done single-make Porsche racing exclusively until this year, and they really jumped in, not just with this GT3 program, but also 3 cars in Pirelli GT4 America as well. Team owner Kurt Swearingen, one of the drivers in Pirelli GT4 America this year. They had a good weekend across the board. I think 3 or 4 podiums for their various cars in all the races that they ran at Sonoma.
Turn 3. Kind of a variety of lines you can run as you exit that corner. Try and carry a bit more speed, run a wider radius coming off, but then you got to quickly transition back over to the left side to get set up for that right-hander, turn 4. Pilgrim here, they got 2 cars. Anthony Barton runs a similar, should be similar, chassis in GT America, and that one's been really on pace, and they've been struggling with the second car this weekend. You'd think identical cars, everything should be the same, but talking to Anthony yesterday, he said they're like 2 different animals to drive.
He said that the 2 chassis that they have even rolled off the assembly line within the same month of one another from the same factory. But for whatever reason, yeah, you're right, they are having trouble dialing in this one for GT World Challenge. Mario Farnbacher's still out, still pedaling, looking for a little bit more. He is P7, but interestingly, that would be the Pro Class pole. It's Pro-Am P1 through 6, because again, the pros in these Pro-Am lineups are top shelf.
Yeah, and looking at the order there, a few surprises. Balzan down in 15th. I mean, that's a huge surprise. The Oberlin there down in 12th with Edwards in 3rd, so that's a bit of a delta there between the 2 BMWs. I thought Morad after yesterday's performance, second fastest. I mean, but again, the conditions, it was really hot and slick yesterday. A lot of it can be a misread in terms of who ran sticker tires in that session versus old tires, but what it's going to do is set up for some very potentially fast cars to make some moves in the early stages of the race today and tomorrow.
Well, and I think that is going to be, assuming it is dry, and whoa, big slide from Super Mario. I think the beginning of the race, you're going to see some aggression because of tire wear, yes, but also marbling. That's been a huge story. The marbles coming off of these tires, especially as you get deeper into a race, it makes it treacherous to go offline. And of course, that's where you need to be to make a pass.
It is, and as I said before, when we looked at the track configuration, first sector is really where the prime opportunities lay. But then when you get through the S's like we're here, it really becomes a one-groove racetrack, and they're saying even if you're 6 inches offline doing your own thing, you can suddenly start to skate around. So you got to be very disciplined and not miss your marks.
Spencer Popelli continuing to push, but has not improved.
A little wide there. Don't think this is a good one.
We'll see if Spencer stays in it or not. Just 30 seconds on the clock, and he calls time on this qualifying session as well.
It's so frustrating, Ron, because as a driver, when you're out there and you're trying to eke every little bit of time out of the car, and you just look at that dash, and the time is getting further and further away from you because the grip level is going away. You're perfecting what the grip level is now, but you didn't get it when the tires were at a sweet spot a couple of laps earlier.
And then there was one car left on the track, and it is Mario Farnbacher, the Racer's Edge Acura, champion in the Pro-Am class last year, but he and Ashton Harrison and the team making the jump to Pro. Had that big win, as we've chronicled, at Sonoma in race 2. And it looks like he has called time on the session as well. So the checker flag is out, and Valentin Haseklo continues to be perfect in SRO America qualifying. A pole in Pirelli GT4 America a couple of years ago, his only previous appearance in this series stateside, and now a pole for race 2 of the weekend in Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS.
Yeah, he's a real superstar as Amanda gets in there to try and have a chat with him.
Let's hear from Amanda.
Well, the Rover Motor Oil pole position in race number 2 is going to go to the TRG entry. And Valentina, we were talking to your teammate Derek, and he said that you guys were here testing in March and just had a feeling that this was going to be the result. Why has this team gelled so well with you in the car now?
Well, whatever the reasons are, we just have a lot of fun, and that's the main aspect of this sport, is to have fun. And when you have fun, generally you go fast.
We know you had plans to race in this series last year. I did see the fist bump for you from this pole position. Just talk about your emotions of being back in this paddock.
Yeah, I should have done the GT4 last year with Paul Terry, who passed away, unfortunately. So it's been a year I'm trying to get back here. We're back for another pole position, so it's the way to go.
Thank you.
27-year-old from France, fully fledged factory driver now for Aston Martin, won the French GT4 championship back in 2021, as well as a championship in the GT4 European Series the year before. He is a very quick driver, might not be a household name stateside yet, but with performances like that, that could change. There are the results from Q2. There you see Derek DeBoer on the right. Valentin showing up a little bit late, so not sure we got a picture of him. But there you go. TRG on pole. That's fun to say. A little blast
really
from the past.
Cool. Yeah, led by Kevin Buckler, the Racers Group. Great history at this level of competition with GT3 machinery. So they've got a very strong car here this weekend. Everyone in the paddock has been saying the Aston Martin is quick. Tire degradation though, front engine car gets those front tires up to grip quickly. Key is keeping the rears underneath you for the long run.
Jan Halen will complete the front row for race 2. Edwards, Brown, Lewis, Sellers, Farnbacher, Morad, and Pumpelli. Here's a look at the pro class, and again, you've got to go a ways down the overall starting lineup. It's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out in race 2 on Sunday, but Farnbacher and Harrison, they do claim the pole in the pro class over McAleer and Filgueiras, who are on pole for race number 1. Highlights from qualifying. It was a dry session. Let's soak that in. Maybe that's not the right terminology. I'm afraid we could be soaked by the time the day is done today. Hopefully Mother Nature plays nice. We shall see.
Yeah, just so many great manufacturers, great new teams like this one, the 120 car with Adelson and Skier. Adelson had a solid run. Skier, I'm not sure if they had issues, but they're towards the bottom of the heap, so they'll start deep in the pack for the race 2 tomorrow. We've got this young driver lineup, Seth Lucas and Trenton Estep. John Edwards, pole sitter at Sonoma, putting a really solid lap. Wasn't quite enough for the front row, but they'll be a factor in the races, I feel.
Starting 3rd on Sunday, that was Corey Lewis, who we saw just a few moments ago. He starts 5th on Sunday. Pole sitter in pro was Mario Farnbacher. Here's Adam Carroll, all the way down in 14th, but a team that is still learning early in their history. And Ryan Dial just inside the top 10. Lone M-Class car, Andy Pilgrim, the veteran, paired with Anthony Martone. They continue to work through some niggling issues here this weekend. Charlie Luck and Jan Halen have been quick, but the man of the hour, especially in Q2, Valentin Haseklo, the Frenchman, takes the pole position and will lead the field to green for race 2 on Sunday alongside co-driver Derek DeBoer. Well, that sets the table nicely for our pair of races. The first one, race 1, comes up at 2:55 local time here on the Bayou at Nola Motorsports Park. Hope you join us for it. For Amanda and Cal, I'm Ryan. So long for now.